Topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, or its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Don't understand.
Welcome to the camping show. This is CW Getz.
And Jesse Free.
It is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. And outside, it is a 10-degree calm evening here in Illinois. And we are on our first televised broadcast.
We are.
Yeah, on Talk4 TV and my YouTube channel, CW Getz Outdoors, and then Facebook, my CW Getz Outdoors Facebook too. So, and if we experience some technical difficulties here, I tell you what, I think we've all, I don't know about all of you guys, but we've had the day from hell. We had the Van Halen concert going on here for earlier this afternoon, and that didn't work out for us. So we're back to just the basic stuff. But if something happens here, bear with us. It's our first time around. So I guess you got to start somewhere. So anyway.
Exactly. Well, listeners are welcome to call with a question for tonight's guests, and international callers can use WhatsApp for free. The number is 815-663-7782. That's 815-663-7782.
In addition to our regular radio broadcast on W4CY Radio, tonight is the first television broadcast of the camping show. And each week we can be seen on Talk4 TV, CW Getz Outdoors, YouTube channel, Facebook, LinkedIn, and not Twitter. We thought there was going to be a Twitter, but not going to be a Twitter. At least I don't think so. So we're pretty excited about that. Our very special guests on tonight's anniversary show are Cliff Jacobson, Kevin Callan, and Darlene Patterson.
Welcome.
So, hey, and I love this. I can see everybody. This is so unusual. I like this. Stepping into the 21st century. So Jesse, tell us a little bit about each of our three guests. In fact, you're going to tell about two of them, and we're going to do one. Let's get that run.
All right, I'm going to start with Darlene. Hey, Darlene. Darlene is an Indiana teacher, photographer, canoeist, backpacker, potter, and world traveler. Darlene Patterson has adventured to the Canadian Arctic, the Arctic in Norway, Finland, the rainforest in Peru, and the Amazon River. She was an instructor at the Voyager Outward Bound School, a wilderness first responder for 22 years, instructor for a hiking course at the IU Extension in Indianapolis for 8 years, and has been the organizer for a local hiking and adventure camp for over 20 years. Darlene also won a second place in the Chicagoland's Fearless Female Contest a few years ago. Welcome, Darlene. Hey.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Darlene, you're a badass.
You are.
Hard to believe that's me.
Kevin, a.k.a. the Happy Camper. And doesn't he look happy? And by the way, I didn't get the memo because everybody's got their CW Getz shirt on. And I'm CW Getz. I've got no CW Getz shirt. I didn't get the memo. We've had an interesting day here. So Kevin, a.k.a. the Happy Camper, is the author of 18 books. He's an award-winning writer and a keynote speaker at outdoor events across North America, and is also a regular guest on several television morning shows and CBC radio. Kevin has several film awards to his credit and writes a column for Paddling Magazine and Explore Magazine. He was listed as one of the top 100 modern-day explorers by the Canadian Geographical Society and was made patron paddler for Paddle Canada. Awesome.
Wow, it sounds like I don't really have a normal job.
This is what your mother says that, doesn't she?
She did, yeah. She actually, in fact, I talked to her last night. She even said, son, could you get a normal job? And also, by the way, that photo that you posted with you half naked with the whiskey. You're not attractive.
I remember that.
That was a good one.
I love your mother.
No, remove it right now. You're not an attractive man.
I hear that. What is that? They're mean to us. Why? Why?
You got to keep us on their toes.
That's right.
Right, exactly.
All right.
Tonight, we also have Cliff Jacobson with us. You will hear him on the phone. We don't see him on camera right now, but Cliff is one of North America's most respected outdoors writers and wilderness paddlers. He's a retired environmental science teacher and an outdoor skills instructor, a canoeing and camping consultant, and the author of more than a dozen top-selling books and a popular video on canoeing and camping. Cliff is a distinguished Eagle Scout, a recipient of the American Canoe Association's prestigious Legends of Paddling Award, and a member of the ACA Hall of Fame. Hey, Cliff.
How you doing, Cliff? You there?
Hey, man. Yep, I'm here. I'm sorry I can't join you with my beautiful body. I'll be here in spirit, but maybe it's best I don't join you with my beautiful body. I don't know. It's been a nightmare for me today. Viruses on my Mac. I never heard of such a thing.
Oh, no.
Cliff, this is the most important question of this whole entire interview. Do you have the bottle in front of you yet? Because I would. You know what I'm saying? And those days are very frustrating. I totally understand. Absolutely understand. I've had 3 of them this week. So.
Well,
look
I'm
at
ready
your buddy. Cliff,
I'm
your
ready
buddy
to
is
be
in this
on.
camera with an Old Forester, a bottle of Old Forester. I wish you could see it.
That's a pretty decent whiskey, actually.
It is, and I did this because you are an old Forester.
You should see the grin on his face right now, Cliff. He's in Bocephus mode.
Oh my!
I love it.
No. Wow. Well, hi all. I'm sorry I can't see your smiling faces because I dressed up so pretty for all of you. What can I say?
You can, and I think this is going to be available later. It's going to be posted somewhere, and I don't know. It was like what's that video that you have to have parental guidance to watch? Yeah, we'll be in that one.
You haven't signed the waiver yet.
That's right. There is a special
Right.
form for that.
There's
yeah.
a waiver for that.
Well, I love it. So Cliff was a guest on the camping show here now a few weeks ago. And, we were doing an episode about environmental ethics and near the Roxy, my producer, are you still there?
I am here.
We had an incident in front of your house and, maybe you want to explain that because it was the weirdest, freakiest thing, but we lost power momentarily and it knocked us off the air for a few minutes while we were in the middle of a discussion. So, but
Yeah.
anyway.
So I live on a 4-way stop, and I don't know how it happened, but a car ended up
You
crashing
still
into
there?
the car.
You guys? No.
Say no, guys. Say no.
We're here, Cliff.
Okay, because everything went real quiet all of a sudden.
So,
You hear me?
Yes, we can
Yes.
hear you. Absolutely.
Okay.
car crash, internet goes out, tower goes out, everything.
What's going on?
Right in the middle of the
Quiet.
show.
Everything's dead
I
quiet.
don't know if you can hear me.
We can.
So the car crashed.
The car crash, internet, power out.
Yeah.
So you guys were still talking. I was
We had
able to
no
get back into the conversation. I'm like, hey guys, where should we start off at?
Well, so I thought maybe we could cover those tonight on tonight's show. So there are a few environmental issues that frequently come up in conversation. So, and these are things that involve anyone who regularly spends time outdoors. So let's talk about the truth and the realities regarding each. Cliff, are you still there with us?
I'm still here with you, man.
Okay.
I'm here.
All right.
Perfect.
I'm here.
So Jesse, go ahead and pop in
Yeah,
there.
let's start with campfires. Are they really as damaging as what we're told? And are CO2 emissions from campfires really as big of a deal as we're sometimes led to believe?
Well, this isn't an either or thing. This is the depends on where you are thing. Obviously, if you were in a delicate environment with delicate flowers and flora and things like that, yeah, you shouldn't be building fires. There are certain places where you don't want to build fires because of sensitivity, but there are other places where There's nothing wrong with building fires. As a matter of fact, they may even be beneficial. For example, the northern forest ecosystem. This is the North Woods. That area, that's a fire-dependent area. If you don't have fires about every 35 to 100 years, what happens is the litter layer, which is pine needles and whatever falls from the trees, builds up and it becomes really, really thick. And then what happens is young plants can't get through that litter layer. So through the course of time, literally millions of years, fires have gone through the northern ecosystem on an average of somewhere between 35 and 100 years, burn that litter layer off. Those are little fires, all right?
Okay.
And then the vegetation can come back up again. And if you totally protect that environment against fires, what happens is the litter layer gets thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker and thicker until one day you do have a fire. And instead of it being a tiny little fire, it's a big gully whumper. Now, I bring this up because there are people who will go camping in the northern forest ecosystem and they say, I'm not going to build a fire because I'm saving wood for the world. You're not saving anything for the world. First of all, there's so much dead down stuff in the northern forest ecosystem. That's the Boundary Waters, Quetico, that whole area. That even with 250,000 people going up there every year, trust me, you're not going to burn all that stuff up. You will burn up all the stuff that's in your campsite, and you will have to look around to find dead, dry wood. But as far as building a fire up there, no. It doesn't hurt a thing.
No.
Of course, you don't want to let that fire get out of hand.
Well, sure.
Well, you just,
absolutely.
you just obviously watch. So, the problem is, and with due respect to federal authorities, when they make rules, they like to make rules for national parks, for example, that are kind of universal. Okay. But different parks and different things are in different ecosystems, and what works in the northern forest ecosystem does not necessarily work in the desert ecosystem.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little careful there. And you know what? And I would say to people, I would say, if you're building a fire and you're worried about the amount, your carbon that you're creating, I think maybe the best thing to do is look in the mirror and figure how many miles you drove to get to where you're going.
That's so true.
Figure out the miles per gallon and multiply that by about 8, and that's how much carbon you burn just going from Chicago to the Boundary Waters or wherever you're going.
I'll bet you no one thinks about that, Cliff. I mean, seriously, I bet they don't. They're like, you're right. I mean, think about it.
So can I ask who says that you should, who makes that statement that you shouldn't have a fire?
Some people focus on little tiny things that don't make a difference, but the big things that really do make a difference, they don't focus on.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, driving to your destination, you're going to use up a whole lot more you're going to burn a whole lot more carbon than you're going to burn in the fire.
Darlene, you had a question. Did you hear that, Cliff?
Cliff, hey, it's Darlene. My question is, who makes that statement that you shouldn't have a campfire? Who is making that statement?
Darlene asked who asked. She said, "Who's making a statement that you shouldn't have the campfire because of the CO2 thing?" Well, did you catch that, Cliff?
No, but the answer is it's just there are people that are such, and and I have to qualify this by saying I taught environmental science for I wrote a lot of environmental stuff. I consider myself an environmentalist, but some people go nuts with it. I actually had a guy on a canoe trip once, this is no joke, who swallowed his toothpaste. I think I said this before.
Oh, yeah.
And he couldn't get the point that what goes in one end comes out the other. He thought he was saving the environment by swallowing his toothpaste. Well, we have people that are like that too. They think if they build a fire, they're burning up stuff. Even if it's a little bit of stuff, they're saving carbon from going into the air. Yeah, I suppose you could argue that point if you want to, but you have to then go back and look at the big stuff like driving up there or taking an airplane to where you went or whatever the case may be.
And I just realized something, Cliff, because you're on the phone line here. You can only hear Jesse and I, and you can't hear everybody else. So we're going to have to repeat some things, and I apologize for that. Please tell everybody. Please tell everybody I apologize because I
I was 3.5 hours with Apple computer this morning,
Yeah.
trying to get viruses and junk out of my computer.
No, it's all good. It's all
And,
good. So I'll just repeat for you what anybody asked you or whatever.
Sure.
And I apologize.
okay.
You're probably not going to hear much of the conversation, and that's unfortunate. But I guess
No,
it is.
that's
Yeah.
I'm
So
sorry about
just
that.
that's okay. Just hang on, stand by. But if you want to keep trying to get into the room, that's great. On the video.
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Are you saying that Cliff can't hear me?
I am saying that, Kevin.
Oh, let's tell some stories.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Kevin says we're going to talk about Cliff stories now that you can't hear him.
Since you can't hear.
Darlene, explain what it's like driving around food shows with Cliff.
Oh, wait till you see this on TV, Cliff. You're going to like. Now, let me ask you this, Kevin. How about in Canada? How do they? I mean, is this kind of the same deal, the same kind of thing in Canada? I mean,
it is. There's so many camp debates. I think it's fantastic. But the people that actually say that don't have a campfire, but actually have a camp stove, they probably own a camp stove company, right? So
yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, because the amount of emissions that are coming out of that gas emissions, unless it's an alcohol-based stove, whatever, even then. But yeah, it's important to watch where you're having your fires. If there's a fire ban, you can't have a fire. I know in Canada, probably in Boundary Waters too, they'll actually check your pack if there's a fire ban, and you have to have a stove, or you're not allowed in the park in Quetico.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, because you can't have a fire. I mean, if you ignite the forest. But Cliff's right. I mean, and him and I are past forest techs, right? And
right.
But what's happening in Quetico and Boundary Waters is that we stop fires for so long with Smoky the Bear that now we're having so much balsam grow up as opposed to old growth pine, and they're sort of overdoing the old growth pine for seedlings. And when you need a fire to burn that off, you need a hot fire. It can't be just a little tiny mini fire that goes into the forest. It needs to be a major burn, which will take many, many years to progress. And and probably like CW, you'll be dead by then. Roxy,
I'm giving it a couple years for me.
Well, we're doing this all for Roxy, and so. But the whole thing about that is like, you can have a campfire. If anybody says that you should never have any campfire whatsoever because the CO2 emissions going off into the atmosphere for it,
right.
Yeah, just go past a smokestack or go on the highway. And Cliff's right for that. So, darn, did I just say Cliff was right?
You did just say that.
Cliff was
Don't
right.
let
That's
that
right.
slip again.
Well, okay, and let me ask you this though. So I don't think a lot of people really do understand that thing about the fires and the burning off and what really needs to happen, because people freak out when they everything. Oh, there's fire, and then forest fires, and I get it. A lot of them get out of control and all that kind of good stuff. And then they burn houses, which is bad.
Terrible. But
like Cliff and you both are saying this same thing. That needs to happen at some point. And so we're talking about, things like the CO2 thing. I mean, there's a lot of CO2 coming off there, right? Yeah.
There's more coming out of a cow's.
I can see you guys.
Let's turn off his phone.
Hey. Oh, okay. I got it. Okay. Is he's there?
Okay.
Rock and roll. Okay.
Look at the sexy tracksuit he has on. Look at that.
I like that.
I got a weird deal. This is so bizarre.
Isn't it better?
I'm running Safari on this thing, and I click the Chrome, and every time I plug it in, it goes back to Safari. So I had to go to Chrome, and I had to make it my default browser to get on this thing.
I was going to suggest, but I don't know how to do it because I'm.
Cliff, I sent you a text to try to help.
Hi guys, it's good to see you. You look as beautiful as ever.
Cliff, you should hear the stories they were saying about you. Oh my goodness!
But that's all right too. It's just kind of
Well, we were just talking about the forest fire.
Yes.
Okay, and now, Darlene, you got anything to add to that? Because
I
absolutely
absolutely do. Because I will. The whole reason I go camping is so that I can have a campfire and roast marshmallows and have s'mores.
There
So
you go.
I'm not going to change a thing.
Absolutely.
Right.
Do you drink with that at all or no?
And if
Not when there are children around.
Oh, I thought you meant just not with marshmallows, but the children. Yeah, the children thing. There is that. I would have thought it would have been the marshmallows.
if Kevin and I are with you, we can drink a scotch while we watch you roast marshmallows.
That's my man. That's my man right there. All right.
All right. Well, we're going to keep moving. Let's talk about the aspect of wastewater. And by this, we're referring to dishwater, bathing, brushing your teeth, and of course, human waste. So is disposal at a minimum of 150 feet away from a lake or river overkill? Or is that right on target? Everybody
don't raise your hand at once.
Any takers?
Okay, so I'll tell you right now that when I go get water from the lake at my campsite, I never ever go where it's easy to get water because I don't trust the camper that's been there before. Not to say they're evil campers, but there are some ignorant ones, right? So basically, I've been on a trip where this one gentleman, and I didn't catch him until the day 3. He would go back and do his business, and then come back and wipe his hands in the water by the lake, and then use my tea towel to wash his hands. And I looked at him, I went, "What the heck are you doing?" And he goes, "What's wrong with that, man?" I went, okay. Or even doing dishes right by the water. You don't do that. And you have to assume when you get to a campsite that the person there was not as ethical as you.
Yeah.
Just keep safe because you don't want to get sick out there, right? Especially if we're doing a 20-day trip.
Right.
So I get water somewhere else where nobody else could actually get there easily. And then when I dispose of my dishwasher or soap, whatever, or I swallow my toothpaste and poop it out somewhere, I will go way back in the woods where no one else goes.
Well,
that's like modern day poopery.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I'll jump in behind Kevin. I'll say, yeah, Kevin's right about where to get water. That's a whole nother question. As far as getting rid of wastewater, again, the government comes up with some number. They sit around the table and they say, well, I think 50 feet would be a good. No, I think 100 feet would be better. No, 100, they should go a long ways, 150 feet. You know what? The truth is, you send the typical beginning canoeist, camper, 150 feet from the lake in the Ontario bush, and you're going to send another search party. They're not going to find their way back. So I'm sorry, that's not, as far as I'm concerned, that's nonsense. Okay, what isn't nonsense is where you're dumping it. All right, you don't want to dump it down a slope or it's going to go down into the lake or the river. Yeah, you want to go back in the woods a little bit and dump it there. That's fine. You should have plenty of filtering action through the soil. So, I think, honestly, if that's half a football field, that's a nonsense. I think that's a total nonsense bit of advice.
Yeah, I'm with you. And Cliff, you and I talked about. So we actually, when we popped in, Roxy, our producer, by the way, we got to that part in the episode. We were actually in for this. So I'm going to throw this at Darlene and Kevin here to start with. What about burning items in your campfire? And I'm going to list a few. Leftover food, aluminum foil, plastic bags, small dogs. Oh, I'm sorry. That's not it. Eggshells. I'm sorry. It's just a joke. Eggshells. So there's leftover food, aluminum foil, plastic bags, and eggshells. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, I think if you have leftover food, that's poor planning. And I mean, if you've repackaged everything and you have plastic bags and you empty them, they don't weigh anything anyhow. So to me, it doesn't make sense why you wouldn't just take the plastic with you. In my mind, the only thing you should burn would maybe be paper. But again, use that for fire starter and give it a purpose other than just burning it to be burning it. But everything you have is virtually going to be empty. So I don't know why you wouldn't just take it out. Eggshells burn up. I don't know why that would be a problem. Yeah. What
do you think, Kevin?
It's a tough one because it all depends. If I'm doing a 2-night trip, I can carry everything out. I don't need to burn anything.
Right.
If I'm on a 20-day trip, I'm not carrying that garbage for 20 days. But then the person that's going for 20 days knows when you burn garbage, you burn it. When you burn food, you burn it. You don't burn it to just embers so the bear can smell it and come in. But and Cliff, like, and even Darlene too, like, we've done all these shows for years, right? And Cliff, you've been on stage where you really have to watch what you say to 800 people. Because if I said, I don't burn my garbage, and they go do an overnight, well, Kevin said, so it's that's point too, right? So it's like my Scottish mother, just didn't be stupid, She always just looked at me, she said, just didn't be stupid, you'd be fine. But you can't say that to people. Well, I guess I'm saying that right now.
Well, only the whole world. I mean, it's not a big.
So I would burn my garbage if I'm doing a long trip, especially if there's a fire ban on, and it's been on for like 10 days, and then finally the fire ban lifts. I'm going to burn all that stuff because I don't want to have an issue with a bear coming in, or a raccoon, or a squirrel, or whatever.
Yeah, and that's kind of what Jesse was going to talk about here, or ask you to.
Yeah.
Oh no. Well, I'm sorry. I want to. I don't know how many of you missed Kevin's last point, but the last point he made was pretty important. And one of the things that you have, when you have these plastic bags and you dump the food out of them, you still have stuff left in those bags.
Yeah.
Even if you wash those bags out, there's still odors and whatever in there. And if you are in big bear country, really more grizzlies than black bears, but you can draw black bears too. And you really don't want to be putting that on your back and carrying it a long ways. That's not a smart move. The second point that Kevin made is also an important one, and that is, how long are you going? If you're going to go for a day or two or three, and you're not worried about a bear problem, sure, pack it out, or wash it out and then pack it out. Okay, but if you're going to go for a month or for several weeks, you don't want to be carrying all that garbage. Right, it's as simple as that. And I think the real argument from this comes from, it goes back to what we were talking about before. If you burn plastic bags, you're creating carbon, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And that's going into the atmosphere. Yeah, it is. But again, I would say, burn 3 plastic bags and compare that with the amount of carbon you burned in your car driving up there.
Yep.
Sure.
Yep. Especially my car, 1972. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, that's a lot of plastic bags.
Yeah, that's right.
Makes sense.
I guess the bottom line really is, these things aren't that simple. It's not a matter of this or that. It's you got to think about this.
Mm-hmm.
Especially with kids. If you're taking kids on a bush trip in Ontario, and you're having them carry leftover plastic bags, and there's bears about, I think you would be pretty unhappy if a bear started clawing up a kid because he was carrying garbage.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right.
Good point.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short commercial break right now, but don't go away. We'll be right back with more of the Camping Show on W4CY right after these messages.
Canoecopia, the world's largest paddle sport expo, is March 12th through the 14th. Of course, Canoecopia is virtual this year. We have 80 presentations and more than 70 exhibitors. Gear, too. Boats, racks, paddles, PFDs, and more. Tickets are $15 for all 3 days of paddle sport bliss. Plus, the content will be available for 60 days afterwards, so if you miss something, you can come back later at your convenience. Virtual Canoecopia, hosted by the real Rutabaga Paddle Sports. Check us out online at canoecopia.com.
Yes, and we're back with our guests, Darlene Patterson, Cliff Jacobson, and Kevin Callan here on the Camping Show. So now, and thank you for that. I really appreciate you guys doing that, because that was very cool. And those are always questions that are asked. Now, the part of the show, we're going to have some fun, kids. All right. So here's the deal. I'm going to ask each of you this question, and so we only have what do we got? 20 minutes left.
20 minutes.
20 minutes. It's like the pizza guy. 20 minutes, eh?
20 minutes.
So give us the Reader's Digest version, so that we can hear from each of you, and let's omit animal stories, like Uncle Lair. No bear stories. So I mean, Jesse, you explain this, kind of what we're going to do here. We're going to ask them.
Okay. So share with us one of those.
There's the word, bun of a sitch.
I was like, hold up.
It's almost like swearing, but not really.
Yes. One of those situations where you were either freaked out, embarrassed, or up the creek without a paddle, so to speak. Maybe like forgetting to pack toilet paper, having to resort to using leaves, except you accidentally maybe grabbed some of that poison ivy leaf at night in the dark, you know. How did you deal with your situation? And you know what? Darlene, ladies first.
I knew you were going to say that. So I have fretted over this, trying to figure out how I could throw someone else under the bus in some embarrassing story. And I could not come up with anything. I surveyed friends. My friend Phyllis said, absolutely not. That every time that she's been out with me, I take care of all the bus, the bells and whistles, and we've not had any weird stories. So I decided I'm going to just tell one on myself. And I'm sad to say it does involve an animal, because there's a state park in northern Indiana that is called Chain of Lakes, and it has on it a series of chain of lakes, but it also has 4 campsites that you can get to only by canoe. So I've stayed at this campsite several times, and every single time I'm there, I have a raccoon encounter. The first time, the raccoons literally stole out of my backpack a map and a pair of glasses. Another time, they had a friend and I.
You're going to need the glasses.
They had to
for
see
the
where
map.
they were going.
Yeah, I did that, man.
Yeah, and another time, they were just making these noises, and the friend who was with me, we were both very seasoned campers, but it frightened us to the point that she said, "Where's your pepper spray?" And I said, "In my hand." So we got through that night, but the third time I was there with my friends, Nikki and Sean, we were camping in the same exact campsite. And shortly after we went to bed, we heard the raccoons. So I said to my friends, that's okay. I have the pepper spray. So I crawled out of the tent, and I'm face to face with the raccoons, and I hit the pepper spray button, and it goes, boom. What I don't know, because it's dark, is it has sprayed all over my hands. And so I said to Nikki, she was up with me, I said, well, we're out of the tent. Let's just go up to the outhouse. So we walk up to the outhouse. I don't know. I have pepper spray all over my.
Oh boy!
Not burning.
Oh.
And we go into it's a 2-holer, right? So we go in the outhouse, and I do the thing with the toilet paper. As soon as I used it across my girly parts, I literally just went.
Oh my God.
I did not see that coming.
And I stood there, and then of course my friend Nikki starts laughing too, because she can't believe that I have just covered my private parts with pepper spray. And at that point, we're just dying laughing. But I'm literally thinking, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Go to the hospital? How do I explain that to the people at the hospital?
How long does that last, Darlene? When you with the.
Luckily, not very long. I literally hobbled back to the tent, crawled, and I'm like, okay, breathe. And I crawled in the tent, and I laid there. It probably within 20 minutes had subsided, so it probably wasn't that much. But boy, was that a shock!
Wow.
And we just had my friend Tisha Taylor, who was a guest on the show. She just said, "Ouch."
Yeah,
that pretty much says it all, right?
Oh yeah, it was running through my head. What am I going to say to the emergency room people? And how do I get there? I'm in a boat.
Oh my gosh!
I like that.
There.
What?
That's hilarious. I mean,
There you
that's a good one, Darlene.
That's a good one.
All right, Kevin, what do you got?
She got me.
You've never put pepper spray on your private parts, either on purpose or otherwise.
Put other things, but not.
How about Old Forester? Have you ever put Old Forester?
Yeah, Old Spice.
Right? Old Spice. There you go. That was high school, right?
Oh my God! Hey, let's see what happens if I do this. Yeah. Oh my Lord. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Stop. This going to. Oh my.
Right. Yeah.
Basket. All right. I actually thought I could. I got to say, one of the most major misadventures I've ever had when I actually looked at my old journals, and it was human error. It had nothing to do with wilderness. Had nothing to do with wild animals. And one trip was just brutal to prove it. I flew in with a film crew to Algoma to film Megason Lake, this old growth forest. the government went with us to document it. And the one guy, he didn't get along with his wife, so he phoned her every night on the sat phone, and they had an argument every night. And then the battery in the sat phone went low. And then the producer of the film company, he got really sick from a parasite because he filmed a show on parasites before that trip, and he brought the parasite with him. And so we had to phone in an airplane to come and get us, a float plane. And that guy couldn't get in because he was arrested for pornography scandal.
What?
No, it was a terrible trip. And
Come
then
on.
I waited 2 days for another plane because I finally had a little bit of battery left. I got another plane company coming to get us, but he couldn't come to get us for a couple of days. All we had was sugar and prunes for the four of us, actually 5 of us, to eat on this island waiting for the plane to come and get us. And then they came and got us. They flew us to our vehicles that were 80 kilometers away from Chapleau, like on a dirt road. And some locals slashed their tires because they didn't like canoeists going up to their area.
Wow.
How did that many, like, that's a lot of misfortune.
It's terrible. It was a terrible trip. Don't go canoeing in Ontario.
That's
Moral of the story. Don't go.
That's a
But
good
it
one.
was all human misfortune and error as opposed to wilderness. Everybody goes, oh, don't go to wilderness, you'll die. Wilderness is dangerous. No, humans are dangerous.
Which is why I carry pepper spray.
Oh man,
Right.
Usually for people.
that's funny. Cliff, you got one for us? We got a few minutes left here.
Well, this is not a biggie, but I'm one of these guys who tells everybody they have an equipment list, but I never have one. Okay? It's like I can remember everything, so at least I think so. It's getting a little bit worse now, but some years ago, I was guiding a group of kids in the Boundary Waters, and then we went up into Ontario. And doggone if I didn't forget. And the rain was coming, and I had to rig a tarp. I get my tarp out. I forgot all my cord at home, my whole bag of cords.
Wow.
How am I going to rig this thing? So I start looking around. And you know what? Some careless camper, God bless him, put a bunch of cord up in a tree, and he couldn't get it down because it was all knotted up. So I just got it down, strung it together, and I had cord for the rest of my trip. That's about
God was on your side that night, big time.
Kidding.
He might not have been there for you today, Cliff, but he was there for you on that trip.
He was there today. He was just a little late.
Kevin calls you God. You know that, right? Like when he's on stage with you, he said it's like being here with God himself. So
Cliff, I actually do. I'm up here in Canada, and some people know who you are, and some people don't, right? And they say, well, who is this Cliff Jacobson? I go, well, he's the god of canoe tripping in the United States. Don't you know who he is? And you should have a cigar. Like
I was thinking that. Yeah. I thought God had a cigar.
Everybody knows Kevin.
Well, it's interesting though. Like we've known each other for many years doing all these shows, but I gotta say, in my early 20s, I went down the Missinaibi River for 20 days on myself, my first big solo trip, and it was from your book. It was the Bible. It was actually the Bible for me to go down. It still is.
Very cool.
Right?
Yeah.
But it's really cool though how at all the shows we went into, like we parallel in our careers. Like we're both forest technicians. We did forest surveys. Forest measurement and stuff like that. And then we started writing, and then we ended up with our lives promoting other people to get out there so they can burn garbage in their campfire.
I have to, you know what? You say that. I have to read some comments here. And first of all, I'm going to say a bunch of people here. So we've got Bill Rishka, Tisha Taylor, Joy Gallen. I said, that's how you say it, Gallen. Anne Fleming Sweeney. And she mentioned something about, she says we boil water before consuming, of course. No plastic or eggshells. It's toxic. So yeah, it gives off toxic fumes. Anybody want to respond to that one? I didn't know that eggshells would be toxic.
Eggshells last forever. Everybody knows that. You throw eggshells out, they kind of last forever. That's the bad news. The good news is there's a lot of birds out there, and they lay eggs, and those eggshells are out there too. They don't hurt anything. It's just calcium, and
that's I would think. I thought.
What are you going to do? I suppose you can burn them out and pack them out if that's what you want to do. But the realities of it are, I don't think too many people are going to do that, because you're going to have a really hot fire to burn out those eggshells.
I don't know how many people take eggs. That many people take eggs into the wilderness anyway.
I was wondering that.
I do.
Well, I do too, but not a lot.
No one except for us. That's no. You know what though? There's nothing like a fresh egg though.
Eggs, because you guys deserve the best.
Love you, man. That's awesome. So I want to ask, so now, Kevin, you and Cliff are both going to be presenting at Canucopia on the 12th, 13th, and 14th of March. Is that right?
Yeah. It's so different this year, eh, Cliff? Like, man, where's the hugs, man?
Yeah. I know. It's just terrible.
And drinking the bourbon at night. Where's that? It's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know something? Here's an interesting thing. And this is funny. I think, and Jess, you missed this, because if you had been with this show last year at this time, we, Darlene, Kevin, and Cliff and I think my cameraman, Mike, Mike Baster, we were all in a hotel room. The band was in the corner. No, I'm joking. But actually, Kevin showed up with, what was it? Not monkey butt, but what is it again?
Monkey butt. Maybe he did have that as well.
I don't know. Yeah, Kevin, was there some, monkey something, right? What was it again?
Well, we started off drinking monkey shoulder, but it turned into monkey butt later on.
That escalated.
I knew there was something more to that.
So, you just scream the word butt. That's all there is.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah.
It's just funny when you say it on the air. You can say it all day long, but until you're on the air, but it's not funny until then. But it was a great time, and I really got to know, all you guys much better. Of course, you always do when you're drinking with somebody, but it was a great time, and that was a great show. That was at the not Quiet Waters, but Quiet Adventures. Yeah. Hard time changing that name.
It's such a really good community. It really is. If you think about it, all the shows we've gone to, Darlene and Cliff and I and a bunch of others, it's all a really good, strong community, and we're all there for one purpose: is to get more people out in the woods so they can save it.
Absolutely.
When things happen. So, and the Canucopia, and even Cliff and I are doing a Q&A at the Quiet Adventure, and I think we're doing one also at the at Canucopia. But remember, Cliff, when you and I were on stage together, this is great. I don't know if we have time for this, but I'll do it.
Fire Marshall, because we were overpacked and the room was overpacked.
Oh man, Cliff, it was hilarious. I went to Darren Bush, the organizer. I said, I got an idea for next year. Cliff and I will go on stage and we'll debate, like a Canadian against a U.S. camper, and we'll.
Yes.
You're debating with God, you know that. Like, oh yeah, it should go really well.
Great.
I love it.
So I remember Darren even said, "There's no way Cliff will actually do this." And no, it's Cliff's idea.
Did he really say that? He said, "I don't think Cliff's going to go for it." Well, how did that turn out? I mean, who won? I want to know who won.
Oh, Cliff for sure, but that's
it was, what the funniest part was, I think one of the funniest parts was when I gave that woman that canoe paddle, and she held her, and I said, "Oh, you paddle a kayak, don't you?"
And when the scouts came in, and I forget what you were saying, something about bear spray. How I said, well, you can't take bear spray in a float plane up in Canada, and you said to the audience, well, you just don't tell the pilot.
And that's the name of that tune. Yeah.
Now they tape it on the float, so if they land real hard, it goes off, right?
Yeah, that is really good. Yeah, it was funny though. Like there was about 100 scouts. I said, "Are you telling the scouts of America that this is an unethical procedure?" Yes, I am.
Yeah.
I wish. That would be good. I wish I would have been there for that. That would have been great. So now you guys are doing this virtual this year, and you're going to be not in the same room, of course, but you're going to be online at the same time doing the Q&A thing. Is that how that?
Yeah, that'll be fun, because we really have a good time going back and forth. Kevin and I do.
Yeah.
But we're really good friends. We really like each other.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
Don't we, Kevin?
We are. And as long as I keep my Canadian accent, we're good.
You got it.
Hey, how about it, huh? How about it?
Do not say about. I do don't.
Oh, about. I think about it. About. I like that. I can't do that. I can't do that well.
But
I
I
can-
can say portage is
It's a portage, Kevin.
Portage. It
Portage.
got to be portage.
Portage.
But Cliff, you can be right with every single thing in whatever you debate, but you're going to lose that one, man. It's a French word.
This is the eternal debate. Yeah, it's like a little civil thing, civil war. It will never be an agreement. I love it. You need a flag. You definitely need a flag for this.
There is one thing that I want to do with Cliff is to go down and paddle down the Boundary Waters in Quetico in a canoe with the Canadian flag on one side and the American on the other, embedded in the canoe.
Yeah,
And stop at a campsite. And the idea, we always had this idea when we get together, is we're going to sit at that campsite where where the boundary border is, the stake.
The marker.
Yeah, and then you're going to be sitting in your camp chair, burning garbage and eggshells and things like that on your side, and I'm going to be on the Canadian side, and we're going to, dispute things back and forth. I think the funniest scene in the world.
Will you be throwing things back and forth as well, or just the debate?
Stop.
I don't know.
CW, that's the same trip we were talking about last year.
I do remember that. I do remember that.
Kevin was talking about putting the canoe and painting the Canadian flag on one side. And
Yep.
Yep.
Video recording it the whole way.
And the hood ornament would be that monkey butt or whatever that is on the top there on the front.
Oh my gosh, you guys are crazy. Before we run out of time, Darlene, I'm curious, do you have any cool trips that you have planned for when school lets out?
Absolutely. I am currently working with an organization called DNK Presents, and they primarily work with women, trying to get women out and kind of to empower them through the wilderness experiences that they would have. And so
Awesome.
I've got 3 events that are backpacking related. They're currently on the DNK Presents website. And then probably within a week, we'll have 3 canoeing events listed there as well. So if any women want to come out and join those activities, they're going to be central Indiana, but that's not too far from Illinois. So everybody's
awesome.
welcome to sign up for sure. Yep.
That's very
Awesome.
cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Well,
Well, if
I
she's
think-
leading the trips, I would say sign up. lady,
Yeah.
because she's great.
Thanks.
That's extremely cool. I think real quick before we sign off here, I think you guys ought to do this thing we call Floatzilla. I think it's like 2,000 canoes in one spot. They have something like that in New York, but yeah, I think you guys ought to do that. We ought to get like one boat to accommodate all of us. And there definitely would be monkey butt on the front of that boat. Several bottles. Okay. And maybe like these really long straws. We could also. This will be after COVID, of course.
I don't think it's monkey butt with the straws.
As long as Kevin carries it.
There you go. I like it. And you know what? They're not going to bother him. He's from Canada. They're not going to bother him with him at all. Yeah.
They're tough up here.
You guys have been great.
Yes.
Jesse, I don't remember when I've had as much fun with this.
This has been a blast. Thanks so much.
Yeah. And happy anniversary to the camping show. And I mean, I'm really like thankful that we made it a year.
Yay.
Awesome job, CW.
And no one's kicked us off the air.
Not
Hey,
yet.
cheers, brother. I don't have the same, but yeah. Mine has a screw cap. It's not very good quality, not high quality here. So anyway, but thank you. We want to thank, Kevin, Darlene, Cliff for being our guests here on the camping show. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here this evening. And I think very highly of each of you. You know that. So I wouldn't drink whiskey with anybody. Just anybody.
Not just anybody.
Especially monkey butt. So anyway, well, we hope you'll tune in next week. And by the way, before I say this, thank you everyone for tuning into the show. I saw a bunch of people here that said hi, and I'm sorry I didn't get to mention everyone here. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you'll be back next week. We hope you'll be back when our guest next week will be Dave Kessman as we discuss river rescue and safety for paddlers.
Once again, thank you for tuning into the camping show.
This is CW Gets
And Jesse Free.
reminding you,
Learn more,
do more. See you next week.